As the world crumbles, the windows shatter and the globe turns, QTVNickBro from his nuclear bunker in Kiev talks with his guest of the day. I'm Vitalia and here's QTV.
Thank you, Tada. Hi, and welcome to episode 9 of ATWC. I'm QTVNickBro, and I hope you're having a wonderful day as usual. I'm having a pretty good one today as well. Pretty chill day. So I hope you have one as well. And remember that if you do like this, then subscribe, like, and you know the deal. Now, let's talk about the internet, right? This is what this whole thing is on the first, is on in the first place. And like a lot of things I like, I'm also into its history and the history of the internet. It's pretty interesting, actually. It all began in like the 60s or something, as like the U.S. government system or whatever. And in like 1990, Senator Tim Berners-Lee published his very first website on the web, and it all spiraled from there. But let's be real here. Almost nobody used the web back then. Most people started to use it only at the best in like late 90s, and for most in like early to mid 2000s. And by then, the web was very different from what it was in 1990. Many new websites appeared, like Google and YouTube, and others, which became very popular amongst the user base. And one of such websites was Newgrounds. It began in 1995 when a young teenager from Pennsylvania named Tom decided to create a fan website for Neo Geo called Newgrounds. But by the early 2000s, the website became a host to a lot of new content, like flash games. Remember those? Well, to be honest, I don't know why I'm telling you this, because all of you probably know this already. Well, okay, except my dad. Shout out to my dad who watches my podcast. So probably thinking that my guest has something to do with that website. And you'd be correct. Today, my guest is a man who pretends to be strong on the internet. Please welcome Fro. Say hi, Fro.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem. So tell us about yourselves.
Well, there's not much to know other than I am also a nerdy little kid from Pennsylvania who found a website called Newgrounds, and then used it a lot as a kid, and went to college and started a life and kind of forgot about it until one day I was like, hey, I really like that site. I wonder if it's still around. And lo and behold, it was. So I went back onto it and started posting around. And one day I got a message from Tom and he was asking me if I wanted to be a moderator of the site, and I said, of course. I always wanted to as a kid, but now that I'm an adult and can actually have the maturity to do it, I'll 100% do it. So yeah, other than that, I have a few hobbies outside of that. I'm really into lifting and competing in strength sports, but I'm a pretty basic guy. That's about all you can know about me: coaching, lifting, and some Newgrounds history.
Nice. And when did you become a moderator? Yeah, you said.
So I believe, if I kind of look back on my profile, you can see that I stopped posting around 2008 or 2009, and then I think I started up again around 2016 or 2017, and it's a little foggy memory-wise, but I believe it was pretty quickly. So it was somewhere in that 2016 and 2017 time frame.
Oh, I see. So you had, as you mentioned, you had a break from Newgrounds, and then came back to it. I like those types of stories when people like come back to something that is like a child or in the past, and then they come back to it. It's pretty interesting. And how did you discover Newgrounds originally, like for the first time?
I can't remember exactly what animation it was, but I do remember one of my really good friends who actually has a Newgrounds account was showing me some, I believe, Resident Evil parodies. And he just, signed on to Newgrounds and was showing them to me. And it's like, yeah, that's what I want to do too. I want to watch these Resident Evil parodies at home. So it was back in 2004 that I made an account so I could like watch and rate and review these Flash animations. And I just remember it being such a pain because all I had was dial up. And only one phone line. So, during the day, you couldn't sign into your dial up or you stopped people from calling you. So I'd be on, right before bed, really late at night. And then it would take 10, 15, maybe 20 plus minutes for a movie to load. So back in the day when collected your experience points and had to vote, it could take like it could be like a 2 hour experience just to watch 5 things. So that was really what was so great though was you strive to find the next best cartoon because now we just can go right to the next one, but back then it was like, yeah, I'm waiting 30 minutes, I'm going to watch this. You'd find your favorite ones and you'd watch them over and over again. So I kind of went there for the Resident Evil parodies and stayed for everything else that I found.
Oh wow! I like can't believe the internet and technologies in general like evolve so much. Like people give a lot of slack to like how we don't have flying cars, but first of all, flying cars are like crap, and
Yeah.
and second, we still had like it's still like huge. Like to imagine like 30 years ago, if you have like slabs of like what like glass that would have like content and stuff on them, aka phones, like
Hmm.
smartphones. It's the same about the internet as well, like the speeds and everything. Uh,
Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. I am never obviously experienced those times because I wasn't born then. um, Sorry for making you feel old.
No, that's fine.
Actually, how old are you? If I
I'm in
ask.
my mid 30s. I'm gonna turn 35 in September.
Oh, I see. So you're quite a Newgrounds veteran, then that's cool. You know,
Yeah,
yeah. And so you mentioned Tom, right? Uh,
yeah.
you both are from Pennsylvania. Did you ever met Tom in person?
No, no, I've really wanted to. When I was a kid and I really wanted to meet everyone, probably they wouldn't have liked me. So probably it's good that I'm older now. But you know, I can relate a lot to Tom and the other veterans of Newgrounds a little bit more now because we're all kind of older and have families and have settled down a little bit. So I'm sure we have more in common than back when I was a kid. Just the weird 13-year-old kid who liked Resident Evil parodies. So I would love to, and I'm fairly close to him. Within maybe 6, 7 hour drive. So someday I will 100% love to meet the man.
That's cool. I hope your dream of yours gets fulfilled. I was about to like say like this whole like kind of like I guess plot or something like um how do you say this like of like you're growing older but still like being united by like this website from your past kind of like sounds like a
Mm.
good setup for like a cool like movie. But then I remembered when you followed me, which was quite on Twitter. Um, I messaged you. It was 2021. Yeah, about this very peculiar documentary film about Newgrounds called "Everything by Everyone." And from what I read, it was not. I think it wasn't finished. I think it wasn't finished. Yeah. And I asked you if you ever worked on it. And I guess it's a great chance to ask you, did you ever work on that movie?
No, and I I vaguely remember the conversation, but no, I haven't. And I don't know if I've ever heard of it, to be honest.
Well, appears to be a bit obscure then. Well, I see. And in general, the way I discovered you, well, actually, no, you discovered me. Yeah, um, was through this very obscure little game on Newgrounds. It's released like a few years ago, called Final Pumpkin. Nobody heard about it. It's very, unknown. And I even I think Ninja Muffin and other devs follow you as well there, right? Uh,
Yeah, most likely. Yeah.
yeah, so there and so they see you like this. You're like the strong man, you could say, of Newgrounds because as I kind of alluded to in the intro, and how you as well mentioned, you also lift lift weights. Um, so tell us about that. How did you start? Uh, um, I forgot. Lifts, lifting weights.
Yeah, so back I played some sports and was in athletics when I was a kid, and then right out of high school, I really had injured myself and kind of stopped. And then so fast forward, I was about 30 years old, and I was playing with my kid on a playground, and I could not keep up with her, and she was going on the monkey bars, and I couldn't hold my own body weight up on the monkey bars. I was like, wow, something's really changed because I used to do sports and I used to be able to lift things and run, and the monkey bars would have never gave me problems, and here I am, I can't even play with my own kid. And that that was really important to me. So I started lifting, lifting, running, and doing all that. Um, and then I realized that I was halfway decent at it. I had been when I was a kid. It came back quick, and COVID hit, and I really just didn't have much to do. I was working from home. Uh, Gyms were closed, so it was hard to continue down that path. Um, so I was looking for maybe groups that had the common interest, and I um, had messaged a local strongman group, and the the organizer, his name's Big Tommy because his name's Tommy and he's really big, um, invited me out to the group to lift with them, and just ever since I found that community of people with a like interest, it just kind of blossomed, and I stuck around, and they helped me sign up for my first competition, and I did really well, and I liked the feeling of performing in front of the crowd and doing well and winning, and I just kind of from that moment didn't look back and just kept going.
Wow, it's quite a story because I remember as well. Used to lift as well, even wrote about it on Twitter, and you saw it as well. I don't anymore because well, stuff. Um, but I remember actually the whole reason I went to lift is because of my health problems. I have like
Hmm.
problems with my rib cage and stuff, and so like it would like my doctor said that if I do stuff like lifting, they would like help me in general, like sport in general would help me with that.
Yeah.
And so I started lifting, going to this gym, and I liked it. Um, I'm probably not as strong as you in lifting. I only ever lifted laying down, like on my spine. I never
Mm.
did it standing like you did, for example. Uh, and I didn't like how do I say this? Like I mostly like lifted just like the bare, like how do you call it in English? Um, like the thing you actually Well, I haven't.
The barbell, the bar.
Yeah, the bar, just the bar on itself,
Mhm.
which was already heavy enough for me.
Mhm.
But I'll later begin to add, we call them pancakes, on the sides, um, as well. Maybe not, again, not the heavy type. But yeah, but again, I haven't done that in ages. So another thing I'm good at it now. Maybe I could try it one day. Do you have a gym near me? Maybe I should.
Yeah, it'll come back quick if you ever want to do it.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating. I saw you were like at like competitions, and by the way, speaking of competitions, like, did you win any like prizes or places? Like, what's your best result in general in this?
Sure. So the kind of the way the sport is set up, you do like local competitions where you just kind of see what they're going to do, and if they're close and you sign up, and if you do well at them you get invites to bigger competitions, and basically you um, just there's a couple levels of invites, and then yeah, if you win those you can get trophies or medals. So I get lots of trophies, a lot of medals and stuff like that. But my best performance wise, so in July, not this last one, but last year's July, I was at what they call a regional championship. So I had done well enough at a local meet that I was invited to a regional championship, where if you do really well, you get invited to a world championship. Um, So on the very first event, I actually fell over and dropped the weight on my leg and broke my leg. Um, and that was the end of that event. But a couple months later, I had already paid for and signed up for our national championship. So I'm from the United States, so the the United States championship, and I still wanted to go to that. But here I am with a broken leg. So probably my biggest victory was focusing on that, recovering in time for me to go compete at the national championship, which I successfully did. I didn't, win or even come top 10. I took 11th, but I was so happy that, just a few months prior, I had broken my leg, but I was able to go and compete at a pretty high level. Then 2 weeks later, I competed at a local competition that was also a world qualifier. And I actually did well enough at that to get a world championship invite. So, as of the time of this podcast or interview, I will be competing in London, UK in about a week and a half at a world championship.
Oh wow! Actually, wait. So, World Championship. Will there be any Ukrainian weightlifters? Uh,
I do not know exactly where everyone's coming from, but it is, a variety of people. I kind of just paid attention to my own weight class because it's so vast how many people are coming. But it's like 70 different countries, and 10 people per weight class, both males and females. So there's chances are there is someone from most places.
oh wow! Well, I'm rooting for both you and them if they will be. Also, it's unfortunate that you had a broken leg there. I remember when I first began lifting myself, one of the things I was afraid of was that whole thing would like just crush me. And that is, mind you, that is without like the pancakes. It's just the bare thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember first time it was difficult. No crap. It was
Yeah.
later it got easier, and yeah, that's when I started writing the pancakes. Pretty fun days. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, uh, let's talk about. Let's go back to Newgrounds
Okay.
because you mentioned you're a moderator.
Yes.
And what do you do as a moderator on Newgrounds?
So, I've done a few things back before I'm currently a forum moderator and a review moderator. So the forums are, I can basically make sure people's posts follow the rules, that people aren't being hateful or discriminatory, while at the same time using my judgment to allow them to give them a little bit of freedom, as long as things aren't hateful, if that makes sense. And then same with the reviews. I make sure that the reviews are following the guidelines of the website. And that may mean deleting posts or reviews or banning people temporarily or permanently from post or reviews, or locking a thread that is going in the wrong direction or the question has been answered. So really basic things. Mostly people are asking about clarification, or can you delete this old post that I'm embarrassed about? So just small things that Tom can do, but allows him to focus on the development of the website, if we're taking these small tasks and requests. Before that, I was an icon and wiki moderator. This was a while ago. I can't actually give you the time frame for this. I can't remember. But the wiki was basically written by volunteers, and that's in the bottom of Newgrounds. When you click there's wiki and frequently asked questions. So down in that section, a lot of that was written by volunteers. And the part that I was developing and writing with people doesn't really get used anymore. It was metal game guides and how to play certain games to get medals and stuff that were tricky. And then the icon moderator was Tom had made updates to the website that changed icons or made them a requirement, and there were a lot of animations and games that didn't have icons, and they just showed up as this default Newgrounds picture. And we would actually go in and watch all these videos or play the games and find a good screenshot to take and make an icon out of it. So a lot of tasks, like I said, that helps Tom focus on the important things.
Oh wow! And all of this is voluntarily, so you're not being paid to moderate on Newgrounds, I suppose.
I am, yeah. There's no pay. Yeah, it's all from the heart.
Yeah, this is not magic of Newgrounds, I suppose. It's all an initiative, like people who enjoy content. They all just came together and do it, I suppose.
Yeah.
And by the way, how many people work on Newgrounds in total?
So I think that's a tricky question. The short answer is I really don't know. The longer answer is I believe it's just Tom and maybe one other person, maybe two people that work. And it used to be a lot more than that until they downsized. I don't want to speak for Tom, but I think it's because there was a point where ad revenue was really great for the internet, and then it basically turned into a non-existent thing for a lot of websites. And when that happened, I believe he had to downsize most of his employees, and he even had a physical office, which I don't believe they use anymore. But as in moderators that volunteer, the list used to be very extensive. There was probably 20 plus moderators for each section of the site. So you would have 24 moderators and 20 review moderators and art moderators and music moderators. So it was probably going on to at least 100 volunteers. Now I think it's closer to maybe like 10 in each section, mostly because I believe people went inactive. People use a website and then they kind of just slowly don't want to use a site anymore, or get busy with real life things and just want to be a regular user. So I think it's a pretty slim list of volunteers and employees right now.
Wow. And wait, so you say that Newgrounds get this funding to keep running from ad revenue, right?
Yeah, and that's one of their big pushes was, if you want the site to stay around, we're not getting ad revenue anymore. So they basically came up with a supporter status where you can, I don't know how much it breaks down to, but I think it's like $3 a month or something like that. Or I pay for a year at a time, and then that allows him to run the site, and he gives a lot of that back to the community. So basically, every time they run competitions and stuff, he's giving money out back to the winners. I don't know how much money Tom makes from the website, but I honestly don't think it's very much.
Well, in that regard, Tom is very, humble, nice, and outgoing, I suppose, person.
Yeah.
He does all of this even if stuff in financially or in general like might not be going as well for a website. And despite despite like all the new stuff going on now in the internet and in the world, the Newgrounds is still a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's still popular more or less. There's still people doing content, games, music, all that. It's absolutely crazy. Like
Yeah. I mean,
how
it's still
old
getting a ton of,
Newgrounds is. Yeah.
yeah, it's still getting a ton of traffic. It's not like it was back when it started, but nothing is getting the traffic like it started anymore. It's still getting a huge following. I mean, sometimes you see it trending on Twitter, and it's like, you're still a good website if you're still getting hits on trending feeds and stuff.
Yeah, and it's like, and it's also like old. It's again, like as I mentioned, 1995. That's older than me. Why you talking about my age? But I remember I watched a documentary. It was about, uh, um, sorry if I'm about this topic, but it was about how the games based on the September 11 attacks, and he mentioned how one of the first games was made on Newgrounds, and website is sold if it has like games that what from 2001, so like
Right.
what 22 years old. That's just something like one of the first like media that it's from 2001. So uh, y- you know. And you can still like play it too, even with the whole Flash shutdown. This is one of the things, other things which I think Newgrounds did one of the best, like in general, like things. That is that they developed a emulator called Rufus, I think. Yeah, Rufus.
Yeah.
To emulate Flash games, essentially. Kind of like, well, actually, I was going to say kind of like Flashpoint, but Flashpoint like actually has like you install Flash player on your device and it like don't plays like that, but still, pretty impressive. And if that wasn't developed, then I know what would happen to Newgrounds. Like to have new content, sure, but it will lose all of the what soon to be 30 years worth of content. 30 years. Website kind of that's great. I'm still like in shock of how like this is the magic, other magic of Newgrounds. There's just like history here, literal internet
and
history.
it's really crazy to think that my account's going to be 20 years old too. So like
Oh,
for the soon, it's in less than half a year. So I'm like, wow, that's I've been a part of this website for almost ever, and I remember lots of things that probably people have never heard about that used to be like a big deal or were part of history. It is really interesting if you read the history section of Newgrounds and go back through, and it's fun for me to read because I'm like, I remember that. Wow, I can't believe I remember that. That happened 15 years ago, but I remember it.
yeah, I love like reading and researching about stuff that has happened that has been going on for like 20 or something years and still like kicking and still like it had like always like changes or like new stuff added to it and stuff. Like for example, shows like a radio show going for 20 years and still strong. That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm weird kid. but speaking of horrible tragedies, Newgrounds is very liberal, I suppose, in its content. Like you can make like games that have like gore, like blood, guts, and even some not safe for work stuff, and it will be okay if it's obviously tagged. If SW, no, of course.
Yeah.
And I suppose one of the things that really another thing that is kind of important because well, another thing that kind of relates to that is copyright. Uh, I remember
Right.
I worked on this collaboration called SpongeBob SquarePants movie Rehydrated, which was a project
Hmm.
to reanimate the SpongeBob movie, the very first one. And I was there. There, Gary, there I am. And I actually interviewed the head of that project on my podcast already. Can check it out as well. And so what happened was they uploaded it on YouTube, but then it got taken down by Paramount, and they had to upload it on Newgrounds, and that's where people actually watched it, because until Paramount, they put the video back onto YouTube, and you can watch it on YouTube there as well. And also how I remember about SpongeBob again, because Paramount, they're very defensive about their copyright, almost Nintendo level, like.
Yeah.
And I remember some guy made in SpongeBob, but it's anime like video, and he again uploaded on YouTube as well, but it got taken down by Paramount, and they had to upload it on Newgrounds. That's where I actually watched it because I got late a bit in watching it.
Yeah. I mean, I remember that one on Newgrounds too. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like very popular at one point, and
Yeah.
I'm actually wondering like if like on YouTube like when like your company and your like copyright is like infringed, you use their like report button or whatever, and they process it and do it. But I suppose on Newgrounds, companies don't really go after like that stuff. And I suppose if they would, they'll probably have just sent a DMCA letter. Why do you think like Newgrounds hasn't been really like touched by like copyright companies like what's that word? By companies who think that something is some fan work that actually infringes like their copyright even though it actually doesn't. How do you think that works?
Yeah, it's a complicated process, and I know for sites like YouTube, they have a legal department. They have lawyers who will take care of that for them. Um, and I think all it took was a few instances of Tom getting struck with copyright being on his site that he realized that he probably did not have the financial power or the staff, really of lawyers like YouTube has to take care of things. So he was kind of preemptive, because just a couple hits to him would probably take down the site forever, financially. So he was kind of preemptive, and I say we, I never actually did anything, but like there's a moderation team that just goes and looks for copyright and removes them themselves before they can get in trouble for it. Nobody likes it, of course. Nobody on any side likes it, but
Yeah.
it's just something where they have to be safe, or they could really hurt. Tom could really be hurting. It's not like a team. It's not like a huge company who's got the unlimited resources to pay for scenarios like that. This is just a man and his family running a website, and if he gets hit with $1 million charge, that could be it.
Yeah. You don't want Tom to be in prison, for
Right.
somebody posting SpongeBob SquarePants episode 1 for 80p quality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that's just words can't describe what Newgrounds really is, to be honest. Well, sure, in theory you could say, oh yeah, it's a website that has games, art, music, and games and art. That's all. Okay, it only really has those. But,
Yeah.
I just realized, do people actually do podcasts on Newgrounds?
Yeah. I've done podcasts. I've listened. Newgrounds had an official podcast I listened to.
Huh.
There was a user named Zinzinix that had really great podcasts that I loved listening to, just because his voice was so great to hear, and it made me laugh whenever he laughed. But Newgrounds podcasts are actually pretty great. I just haven't listened to one in a long time.
Okay, I think I finally found the use for my Newgrounds account. I actually promised to make this podcast be available on other platforms, but then I realized, oh wait, you have to pay. I can't pay, but the magic of Newgrounds is that you can do it for free. So I could actually I'm gonna upload this podcast on the Newgrounds. I don't know when, but I will. This will be like, well, no, I will upload all the episodes. Yeah, we'll see how it works.
Yeah.
It'll work. Thank you for that. It was accidental suggestion, essentially, because it was a question, but yeah. Wow. You can tell, you can spend all day talking about Newgrounds, I suppose. What are some of your favorite memories from Newgrounds that you remember the most?
Well, so I have a lot of good memories that are kind of based on Newgrounds, that did something in real life, and just Newgrounds in general. Like I said, it's weird to be part of history. So not favorite, but sometimes most memorable is when bad things happen. For example, when this is really old, there was a user who basically made a thread saying he was going to burn down his school, and a moderator took that seriously and called the authorities, and they stopped him at the school with all the stuff in a bag to burn down the school. So that's not a favorite memory, but that's something where I'm always going to remember that about Newgrounds. An online community stopping a school from burning down. And then more just in general, just sometimes the community in general, I've made friends, and even though I've never met these people, for the most part, they're still real friendships. And I actually did just meet someone who works on the Cyanide and Happiness comics and cartoons, who had worked with them. He goes by the username Phobotech on Newgrounds, and me and him were really good friends. We moderated together for a long time, and then recently I just moved across the country, and I realized that I was staying maybe 30 minutes away from him at one point. So we got together and had dinner, and it was really great. So memories like that, which would have only existed because of this website. And then it really got me. This is probably the most important part. It got me realizing that creating things can be fun. So a lot of them aren't on Newgrounds, but buddies of mine used to make videos all the time, short films and comedies, and it was 100% like Newgrounds inspired. And I've had short little comedy films shown on TV, and it got me into writing. I participated in these voice acting collabs where I didn't actually do voices, where I just wrote scripts, and also developed games with a programmer where I did a lot of the ideas, and we implemented like real life videos of things happening into the games that I was involved in. So just Newgrounds in general, just inspiring me to write and make movies and read. I've held multiple writing competitions on the website, just things that I probably would have never gotten into without the platform to do it. And it's definitely changed and morphed who I am as a person.
Wow, again, I want to. I'm sounding like a broken record, but this is like just the stories like over time, like they piling on, and they're like you organize them in like your brain into like shelves, like books on your shelf, and then you like come back to like take those books out and read them and remember the stuff you had. What are these comparisons? But yeah, some of those stories. You mentioned the school burning story. I remember that one as well. Watched a video on that. People make videos about Newgrounds. Another thing.
Yeah.
And there's also some stuff became famous even outside of Newgrounds. Like, for example, like what I mentioned before, Friday Night Funkin'. Every 13-year-old played that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. And stuff like Ed's World and Windows Really Good Edition, certified hood classic. Actually, check this. No, really, like I don't. When I was like little, I did not really use Newgrounds. When I used to play like Flash games, I played them on like those crappy like websites that are like free games for boys or whatever.
Right.
And and they would like have like another thing that they would have like ads at like the sides. It would be like it would like look like a bunch of like icons for like games. So like you trick into like pressing on them and getting like a virus. Yeah. Thank God I didn't get a virus. But when I did use Newgrounds was I was a bit of a nerd when I was like 8. I was for some reason a little bit into operating systems. Don't ask, okay? I don't know what I was. What happened when I was 10? But when I went like on Newgrounds and I searched up Windows, and there are a bunch of, for some reason, people have this as well, and they made like games which would be like simulations of the Windows operating system, and usually they would be like comedic. Yeah, what do you want to say? You can say what do you want to say?
Oh, I'm sorry. I got slightly distracted there.
Oh. Yeah. It's
yeah,
okay.
you were talking about like the Windows simulator games.
Yeah. I don't know why those like were popular, but I remember one which was Windows RG, a really cool edition. It's just like one big, which is probably the weirdest shitpost I ever seen in my life, because it's a Flash game that's like made to look like Windows 2000 or something, or 98, I don't know, whatever one. But it's like it's comedic. Like it has a bunch of like jokes, like clippy bleeding on your screen for some reason, or like it being generally an unstable operating system, stuff like that. And this is right, like probably one of the favorite things about Newgrounds as well. That for me is that it attracts people of different interests, different backgrounds. You can find like probably anything here. It's like it's kind of like the rule, except it's like rule, I don't know, 95. If there's something, it's probably on Newgrounds.
Yeah.
Because, yeah. And I remember I used to play this Flash game when I was like little called Earn to Die 2. And the first one as well, Earn to Die 1.
Oh yeah, I love that game.
Yeah. Pretty cool game that I used to play. And a few months ago, I found it on Newgrounds, so it's here as well. Yeah, and also it's made me think about this when I was right now talking about this. Is that probably a lot of content from Newgrounds, mostly games, probably got stolen because, well, in case of Earn to Die, that game was made by some studio and it all got like distributed on like different websites or whatever. But I
Yeah.
suppose I won't be surprised if there is some, cases. There are some cases of people's work from Newgrounds being reposted or stolen without credit or with credit, but actually that was whatever, without credit to their websites.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's unfortunate. I suppose vice versa happened as well, where people would, repost, or people like tracers who just traced off somebody's art. And that's
Yeah, and
yeah.
I think Newgrounds does a good job of finding those because of the human moderation team, but it doesn't stop them. So we kind of stop a lot of stuff that shows up stolen on the site, but it doesn't stop it from showing up elsewhere on the internet for sure. Yeah, it's all over the place.
Yeah, it's a huge web, and that's the thing. It's the thing with any website or community or anything really. Nothing is like perfect or squeaky clean because somebody may just do something bad or like that's why you are a moderator because you're there to police the thing so that there will be order. It's not anarchy
Yeah.
or anything. And this kind of gets into a question. I don't know if you can answer this, but what's the worst thing you had seen on Newgrounds, like when it comes to like moderating, like that you had to like delete or whatever?
Yeah. I haven't seen bad stuff in a while, but I have. I've yeah, I've seen child pornography that I've had to delete. And luckily, 99.9% of the population never saw it because it was quick enough to get rid of. And just a lot of things like that. I shouldn't say a lot, but just a lot of kind of gross illegal things that we luckily catch before the majority of people see. So they kind of never know it even exists. But like I said, I haven't actually ran into anything in actually probably a couple of years now. So I don't know if it was just a time period where a few bad people were trying to get away with something or cause problems and they moved on to a different site when they realized we were quick about it and got rid of it before they could get any reactions or what it was. But I've seen bad but luckily mostly just small problems and just people arguing that don't like each other and stuff like that. But yeah, that was something that I did not like that I saw, but something that I was happy that I saw quick enough that other people didn't have to.
I see. I suppose this kind of stuff appears if you are a moderator for some time, and this also gets me to a different question. How much like hours a day do you dedicate to moderating on Newgrounds?
So when I first started, a lot. I just felt I don't know. There was a small addiction to it where I would check my phone every um, I don't know, every 30 minutes or so. And the user that I sat down with and had dinner with, Phobotech, that I mentioned earlier, we were talking about this. You can get obsessive about it. He realized one day when he was at like a party with his fiance and friends, and where he stepped away from the party with his friends and went on Newgrounds to moderate. And I was doing the same thing. I realized that I was having dinner with my family, or I was on a trip with my family, and I was looking at Newgrounds. And we took different approaches. He said, "I don't think I should be a moderator," and I said, "I think I need to slow down on moderation." So I honestly would probably, when I first started, surf 8+ hours a day. And now it's more like when I wake up in the morning, right before I go to bed, and maybe if I'm in line at the grocery store and it's going to take 15-20 minutes. So probably less than an hour a day now, where when I, for a first year or so, a long time, but also it was COVID um, for a while there, and I just felt like I needed something to do and to be a part of some type of community because I was separated from everyone. So that probably had an influence on it too. But yeah, went from a lot to pretty much just a couple check-ins every day.
Wow. Yeah, the new ground virus gets you. 1 hour, it's, one day you're playing Alien Hominid for an hour, and the next day you're doing it for the whole day.
Yeah.
Addiction, I suppose a lot of people nowadays are addicted. I would say maybe addicted to social media, and, it's okay to take back it's okay to take a break or to kind of try to downsize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you're a moderator, but did you make any content on Newgrounds? You mentioned a podcast, I think, right? So you made a podcast.
Yeah. So a lot of things happened during that COVID
Yep.
year because that first year, because I was so bored. So my buddy and I made a podcast, and I actually really liked it. It was a lot of work. I think we made 9 or 10 episodes. We called it the Dom and Fro Show. His name was Dom, my name's Fro, and he was one of, if not my best friend. So it was just great talking to him, and we had guests and told stories and stuff like that. So I have a few podcasts. If you look at my account, you'll see a bunch of voice acting stuff that I wrote for, not that I voice acted in, and probably some voice acting stuff that I did too, but I don't really have a voice acting voice. A lot of old movies. I made really basic Flash and some of the movies that I was talking about that I made with my buddy that were real life videos that are actually uploaded on Newgrounds. Really poor quality because you had to turn, back in the day, you could only upload 10 megabytes, and we were taking 500 megabyte videos and compressing them down until they would fit into a file to upload them. And then a couple Flash games that I either did voices in or just assisted in or had ideas. And probably the most popular one was the Pyroscape series, which was a game that we had medals. We made 3 of them. And the idea was you were escaping these random scenarios with fire, and nothing made sense, and everything was a joke. There was room escape parts where you had to collect things that just didn't make sense to get out, and just a bunch of mini games broken up with us using real videos for cutscenes and stuff like that. So those were a lot of fun. So I recommend checking those out someday if you want. But going back and playing them, I was like, wow, these are really bad, you know. But I remember the first one back when ad revenue was a thing, making us decent money every year. And then the third one got sponsored by a website, and they paid us to get their sponsorship on the game. So a couple of the games turned out good, even though I was like, man, they were basically higher quality shitpost games. But yeah, lots of random content. And like I said, I used to run some writing competitions on Newgrounds. So even though there's not a content portal per se for writing, there is a writing forum where I had a portfolio of writing and also, like I said, just judged. I frequently ran a yearly Halloween writing competition that I just stopped doing because it would take so much time to judge the 20 to sometimes upward to 50 entries. But yeah, lots of good content came out of Newgrounds.
Yeah, and why am I some there? So if you made Flash games, then I suppose you know how to you know Flash, right? Like how
Very,
to,
very, very basic. Like I could make next buttons and like click this, it'll go to the next frame. Mostly the games were programmed by someone else where we just provided the video and layout and ideas for the game.
yeah, I remember I wanted to make to become a game like designer, and I realized, oh wait, you actually need to like know how to code it, and that didn't go anywhere. Oh, there's a lot of reasons why I didn't go anywhere, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's it's fun that you know people follow different generations play here. I mean, make content as well. Um, you know, old guys come and go, new guys arrive, and yeah, I'm still pretty crazy. Like how this whole thing, 56 minutes in, I'm still saying the same thing. Um, but yeah, but you know, you're more on Newgrounds and weightlifting. What do you do outside of Newgrounds and weightlifting, of course? Do you have
You
like
know,
other social media? Well, Twitter I know you have, but speaking of Twitter now, Twitter you now have. You have a Twitter as well. I know, but
yeah.
you have anything else? Uh,
Yeah, so I do you know, almost all of it's posted around my lifting stuff because I do coach people and train people, so my social media is kind of based off of that, and it's kind of where you joked at earlier, where I just I pretend to be a strong person on the internet, and then sometimes I'll post a video of me lifting something that's really good and go, I also pretend to be a strong person in real life. But yeah, so all my social media is basically based off of lifting. So outside of that, not much, because a lot of my content is trying to get customers and clients to pay me to help them get stronger. Um, so a lot of, but you will see that I act a little differently on different social media. On Twitter, I kind of play this. I'm really strong, and sometimes even like I'm a little stupid type ideology. Like I'll make posts really simple, like I'll pick up a stone and call myself a caveman and stuff like that. And then on Instagram, where I have a lot of, and that's just because on Twitter, my following is people who think I'm strong. And Instagram, my following is a lot of the athletes that I compete against, and higher level athletes and professional athletes and people who I have trained or have worked with like that. So I'm more modest. So my Twitter is kind of an act a little bit, but it's a playful, like kind of a joke type act. And on Instagram, I'm more serious, more humble. And you can find me on both by searching the CoachFro. And then YouTube, I'm trying to do YouTube. It's slow, it's tedious. I have like 444 followers as of today. I'm just trying to peg away at 100 followers at a time and trying to get some content out there. And I've actually gotten clientele from YouTube too, so it's been useful. And yeah, but other than that, I don't do much. Lift, I don't use Newgrounds that much anymore, even though I do use it daily. And so much of my life revolves around that, monetarily and hobby wise, that other than that, I'm just kind of at home as a family person.
Wow. So coaching is your full-time job, I suppose, right?
That's a complicated question. I did have a full-time job here. We recently moved, and I don't have a job currently. I am looking for full-time work. I can make coaching a full-time job. It's just slow, and it takes a while to build up clients, especially when we just moved. So now I have to make a name for myself in person again. But I do take online clients as well. But I would say coaching was always part-time. If I'm struggling to find a job, it may be more than part-time until I do find a job. I don't mind coaching. In fact, I would love for that to be a full-time job, but like I said, it can be inconsistent financially, and I just need the security of knowing I'm going to work 40 hours a week and know that the paycheck's going to be there.
Yeah, and that's cool that you do what you enjoy, and you even get money from it. That's, I guess, the dream for everyone, to monetize what they like. Well, maybe not always. It's not really needed, I suppose, for all the things. But I suppose some would love to be paid to watch Netflix all day or something.
Yeah. I mean, I really thought about that. I mean, not the Netflix thing. The one day where I kept trying to make like short films and comedy things, and it was so hard to get a following on YouTube or any of the other sites. And it was extra work. And I was like, what can I produce that's not extra work? And I was like, well, I'm already lifting. Can I just turn the camera on while I'm lifting and talk to it every now and then? It doesn't take any more time out of my day. Um, and that's been the strategy. So yeah, if you can find something that you already enjoy doing and that you're doing, and you can find a way to turn that into content, it makes it seem like not work and more like a hobby. I'm already doing this type thing. I'm just taking it one little step farther, and I'm not actually using any more of my time up.
Wow, yeah, that's great. Uh, so we've reached a bit overtime there, but
Oh yeah.
one last thing. It's okay, actually. I think you're so interesting that I think a little bit more time is actually only good. I think. Yeah. So you mentioned that you have a kid, right? So
Yes.
a kid. Uh, so you have a family. So I suppose that kind of takes away more time from like not just Newgrounds, but in general. And I can't not ask this, but have your wait? So you have one kid, right? Or
Yes.
yeah,
Yep.
uh, it's a daughter or son you have?
And my daughter, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Does she play Newgrounds?
No, and I think about that sometimes because when I'm moderating, I run into accounts, and they're talking about how old they are, and they're 8 and 9. I'm like, oh no, like they're this is, my daughter's not ready for this. Um, so no, she has not discovered it, but she kind of can. She's found my podcast, which is fine. I've
Oh,
I've had her listen to them, outside of Newgrounds, but I was like, I know she has the tools to find Newgrounds. I just hope it's a few more years down the road.
That's not. It's like a dynasty. Maybe she'll be the moderator in the future. And
Yeah, maybe I should make her an account now so she can get more experience points. And
yeah, and and you mentioned age, like users being 8 or 9, and I know that most social medias they have a rule that users have to be at least 13. Is that enforced on Newgrounds as well?
it is. It's hard to, just like I'm sure any other social media site, it's hard to find that information out.
Yep.
But a lot of times kids that age will just freely put it on their profile or write it in a review. I don't know why. A lot of times they're like, I watched this movie and I thought it was funny, and hey, I'm only 9 years old. And we're like, okay, well, what I always do is just do some basic math and say they're 10 and the age is 13. I will ban their account for 3 years. And I'll write them a nice little message saying, hey, you're more than welcome to come back in 3 years, but please do not use the site till then. But basically, anytime I find an underage user outside of that, I just forward it right to Tom, and we don't mess around. We just get rid of the account.
Yeah, this just made me, as we went on this, I just realized Tom is like more involved into this than I thought. Like, usually, like, to be fair, this is like more of like volunteer thing. It's not really like for profit or like big, like, well, Newgrounds is big, but like big in like big levels. But
You're right.
yeah. And I thought that like Tom maybe maybe he has like a contest or like a thing or two here, but he mostly does like the more background stuff. He doesn't like do like moderation or actively like talking. But like now that he talk about him more, I'm starting to get the impression that he's still kicking alive, like more like just like how he used to before. Did I get it right? Does he still play active role on the side?
I mean, he's super involved. That there's no doubt in my mind that if you had an idea or a question and you messaged him, you'd get an answer back within maybe the same day, maybe not in the weekend, but you'd get a message back. Like, he's super involved in his community, and he's making every choice that he makes, even if they're not popular ones, are choices that he believes are best for the community and for the survival of his website. So he's super active, maybe not always in posting, but like I said, you could message him and he would probably respond the same day, if not the next day.
Yeah, this makes me wonder, how's like Newgrounds not like I suppose used by local government to like, I don't know, like be proud of? Like, oh yeah, our town is famous for this website where people post like crappy flash games. Yeah, that's the tourist. Yeah, they should put that on like tourist booklets. The Newgrounds headquarters. Oh wait, you said they don't have an office anymore. Okay, house. Wait, no, that's what I meant. Yeah, joking there, but yeah, and it's also kind of ironic that you're two from Pennsylvania, just like Tom. Talk about Tom here. It's about you.
I'm fairly close again, so I've told Tom we've got no excuse to not meet each other someday.
Yeah, but I kind of got a bit, I think, into Tom more. Actually, I'd love to get him on the podcast. Hit him up. Maybe we'll record that. But it's about more you. But yeah, you were. Thank you for coming here to my podcast. I actually, even though, actually, one more thing. I'm not against it. I'm just wondering, why do you follow me on Twitter? I'm not against it. I'm actually for it. Like, that's awesome. You're cool. Thank you for following me. But why? How did that happen?
I get that question a lot, and I will follow people if I realize that they are probably a Newgrounds user for multiple reasons. And sometimes I can't tell by just looking at their profile. Lots of times they link it or, say something on their profile bio that they are. But also just who's following them and who are they following, and does it have the theme that maybe they're a Newgrounds user? I just want to be available to the community, whatever that means. So if I see a Newgrounds user who's creating a podcast or trying to start art, and I think I could help by retweeting their stuff or share it, or I've had people ask me for website help through Twitter. And it's just me trying to give back to the site that gave me a lot when I was younger, whether it be directly through moderating on the site or indirectly by supporting another user who even just knows of the website or uses the website every now and then.
Wow, I'm flattered because I never thought people would really care for what I make. Honestly, I don't make much other than this podcast, and actually, what do I make on this podcast? I'm not really talented in art or music or even a podcast, but and so and so I get a little bit surprised when people actually follow me. But I'm very flattered and I'm very thankful that people actually do care about what I do. Because I honestly have, I think, a little bit of a low, maybe like, confidence in myself. And I've oftentimes thought, and maybe even think now, that people, maybe I don't do anything. Oh, maybe I should have said like that thing right or that thing differently. That's why I also frequently make edits, and I'm editing this podcast. I often make like changes, like I once had a few episodes back that I removed a half of it because I thought too much about politics with my friend. Yeah, and I thought it was a bit annoying maybe. Maybe not very interesting in general. And so I had to cut down. I'll probably do some changes here as well. Maybe I cut down some parts. With me, I'll try to keep when it comes to you, or I'll try to keep this as much as possible. But we'll see. Editing is the interesting thing, and that last get cut. It will probably be the compilation episode. Compilation episode, which I will do after the whole certain episode series. Yeah, stay tuned. But thank you very much for coming to my podcast, for being a guest.
No problem.
It was nice having you here. Yeah. Thank you again.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
You can pick words study. Yeah. So now on to extra dish, and what do you have extra dish? Right. So I'd like to apologize about something, my dear listeners. I had some stuff as a result of which the last two episodes got delayed. I'm very sorry for that. I'll try to keep up with schedule, and I hope to release everything. Oh, schedule, yeah. Bring my words there, but thank you for listening to this episode and to my podcast. I'll see you later. Bye.